Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Two Footed Tackle podcast. We are back we're back to our regularly scheduled programming. We're back to what we should normally be speaking about, and what this month and a bit or month really was planned, and that was of course the World Cup. We had our first of two semi-finals happened over this morning, and we'll speak about that, of course. First, hope everyone's well. Hope everyone enjoyed the game this morning. Hope everyone's enjoyed anything, or I hope everyone's enjoyed their lives since the last time we spoke. For those who didn't watch the emergency podcast because they either missed it, or they didn't know what's going on about Australian football, don't really care if you're an overseas viewer in particular, then you would have missed these four things behind me. Audio listeners, got some prints set up behind me. Some Pixel Zidane, a signature for Ronaldo, original R9, and then a nice little partnership of the Drogba goal against Bayern Munich in the Champions League final, and then of course underneath it is the tally text of the game, which is quite cool. So it's got like the goal with like where the players were and the commentary and all that stuff, which is pretty cool. I like that quite a lot. Hence why it's in the background of my shot. But yes, they're the four main things. Hopefully, I want to try fill out the wall. Maybe get some of this side wall, getting this side wall filled maybe, and also this area as well maybe, and behind me and etc. But I've stuck them to the wall now, and as you can tell, I've botched the job a little bit. So for audio listeners, you have no idea what I'm speaking about. But for video listeners, as I demonstrate with my pen here, it's slightly botched. Where is it? Slightly botched here. Here is slightly botched. Which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. You can't really see it. It's over my right shoulder, so hopefully I can disguise it well. But regardless, we're back. We're here again we are here again, back to, like I said, our regularly scheduled programming. Back to the World Cup, and we're not going to speak about the A-League, although I will speak about them briefly because they have, since the release of my last podcast 2 days ago, they have announced that they will be sticking by their decision to hold the grand finals in Sydney and to basically ruin football in this country, ruin all the integrity it has left. They've stuck with that decision. They've doubled down on it. Now the chances of it getting reversed are next to nothing, but it is what it is. Fans are boycotting games, leaving games early. The Melbourne Derby this weekend on Saturday night is going to be absolutely mental. I'll be going and I'll be witnessing the mass exodus of fans that will be leaving the game, but will potentially also be leaving the league itself. So it is one of those things. It is one of those things where you can't really do anything about it apart from complain, because that's all the power we've got. Can't really do anything. We can protest, we can do a lot of things, but really they're not going to listen, so we can just voice our opinions like I'm doing right now, and like a lot of people will be doing on Twitter and Facebook, very eloquently, very passionately as well, which I appreciate. As if I matter at all to any of this. It's good to see that there's been that the level of personal attacks on Danny Townsend and other relative or other related authorities that made these decisions have been kept to a minimum. They're still there, but there's bad eggs in every bunch. Anyway, are we done with that? I don't want to speak about that anymore. I can't be bothered. I don't know what that means for the future of covering the A-League on this podcast. Of course, when we go to our what's it called? When I go back to the weekly podcasts after the World Cup, normally I do cover the A-League, but I don't know my motivations on watching the league anymore, to be honest. I don't know my motivations on watching the league anymore, as my chair is a bit, how are you going? There we go. Okay. All right, let's crack on. 5 minutes in. I don't know how long this podcast is going to be. This podcast is not going to be out at 2 o'clock because I've had some things to do this morning, so I'm filming this at 1 p.m. So, like I tweeted about, it should be up hopefully before 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, which isn't the best, but it is what it is. Let's crack on. Croatia, Argentina. Let's crack into the meat of things. Croatia, Argentina for a place in the final of the World Cup. Now, both sides obviously came into this with relatively similar, I wouldn't say relatively similar parts, but definitely a relatively similar outlook on the tournament so far for both sides. Obviously, Croatia have got through both of their games on penalties. That's right. I'm saying that correctly, aren't I? I am right. That's correct. Yes, they've got through both of their games on penalties. In the round of 16, they've only won one game in 90 minutes over this tournament, whereas Argentina despite losing their opening game, had a pretty dominant, group stage. 1-2, lost one. Their loss was a pretty shock loss to Saudi Arabia, so you can't really take a whole lot out of that. They dispatched of Australia pretty comfortably. As I bring that game up again, and it gives me nightmares, but they dispatched of Australia pretty comfortably. They did it in a relatively professional manner, and of course, the Netherlands game was a little bit more dangerous and a little bit more how you going than what they potentially would have liked. Went all the way to penalties, but they got through. So both sides definitely had merits on feeling confident. Both sides definitely had merits to feeling confident. They were both sides definitely had merits to feeling confident. So as I try to figure out what I'm going to say next, in believing that they could win this game. Of course, Argentina have the Messi factor, have the fans factor as well, which has been a pretty underestimated part of this whole World Cup. The fact that Argentina fans, I mean, you could host a World Cup on the moon, and Argentina fans would still make the loudest noises out of everyone. So you have that, but then Croatia have this unwavering belief that no matter what they do, that they will be able to get the job done. Of course, we all thought they were dead and buried against Brazil. They came out of the ashes from that. We all thought they were dead and buried in multiple games across multiple tournaments, but they came out of the ashes for that, and they have managed to defy all odds and get the job done when many people thought they wouldn't. So this game was always going to be tense, was always going to be tight, especially early on. Both sides set up in a relatively similar formation to how they would set up normally. Obviously, Croatia got to that 4-3-3 with that midfield intact. There was an injury cloud over Marcelo Brozovic, which came much more apparent throughout the game. I'm not sure if it happened in the game or if it was or if it happened prior to the game, but he definitely did have an injury cloud going over him. That did definitely stunt his performance ever so briefly, and of course he did get subbed off just after half time. So that obviously is a little bit of a concern. However, when you look at this, is a little bit of a concern. However, when you look at this Croatian team, you can say that they definitely have the ability to kind of compensate for that. Of course, Bodric and Kovacic are two fantastic players who have had pretty good tournaments. And then, of course, up front you have Pasalic, Jesus Christ, who's in like an auxiliary number 10 who's been played on the right-hand side for this tournament, and has kind of played on the right-hand side for this tournament, and has kind of allowed Modric and Brozovic to have a little bit more time and space on the ball because he kind of fills that gap in a sense. It's weird the role that he plays because he isn't playing like a true winger, like a true right-sided forward, I should say, where he's breaking in between the lines and getting beyond the defence. He's kind of playing, I wouldn't say in the no man's land role, but he definitely is being just kind of very astute with his positioning. Of course, Vlasic as well plays on that side as well. So they do like to play a little bit of an asymmetrical formation, which is pretty handy, especially when you have a midfield that relies on. Especially when you have a player like Modric, who in that midfield relies on a little bit more workman-like players around him. Of course, that's why Brozovic is such an important player. Kovacic as well to an extent. And Juranovic and Sosa as well as fullbacks who help support as well. So, of course, that was the avenue for Croatia, as I keep you already because I haven't really slept at all. Of course, it was a 6 a.m. game and I fell asleep at like 4 o'clock, so I'm running off 2 hours sleep, but we move. That was how Croatia set things up. Of course, Lovren and Gvardiol, the centre back partnership for them this tournament, and Kramaric, Perisic, and like I said, Pasalic up front. Move to Argentina. They set up it sets up here, but according to SofaScore, as a 4-4 4-4-2. However, realistically, it does set up in like a 4. it really does set up in almost like a 4-triple, like a 4-1. How would you describe this? It's like a 4-1. It's like a 4-1-2-2-1. I think that's how you would describe it. I think that's how you would describe it with, yeah, I think that's how you would describe it, to be honest, because you have obviously the back four of Romero, Otamendi as the two centre halves, Tagliafico and Molina as your left and right side of fullbacks respectively. You had Paredes sitting deep, being that pivot in midfield with Enzo Fernandez and Rodrigo de Paul playing in that slightly more advanced double pivot, occupying in between the lines. You had McAllister and Messi playing just behind Julian Alvarez, and what this allowed is it allowed for layers of Argentina's build-up play in a sense. So it allowed them to build up through Paredes, it allowed them to build up through De Paul or Fernandez, and allowed them to build up through McAllister or Messi, and allowed them to really stagger their build-up play. And by stagger their build-up play, that definitely means in terms of in possession, when you have the ball and actually physically building up through those stages of play. But it also means by just occupying space. They occupy space in very dangerous areas because of this formation. Very narrow areas, but very dangerous areas. And what this allows is, we saw it for the first goal. It allows for the players in behind Julian Alvarez to split and to create this kind of avenue to goal for Alvarez and for these attacking players coming through the middle. That's where the first goal comes from. Of course, the ball gets played right through the middle of this of the Croatian defense, Croatian midfield, and of course Alvarez has a shot which wasn't going to go in. It was going to get cleared off the line, but he did get cleaned up by Livakovic. Towards at the end of that. So that, of course, was a penalty. Now, a lot of people are kind of complaining, was it a pen, was it not a pen? For me, it's a penalty. And I think the only reason it is because technically this is the same scenario as if Alvarez had just taken it past the keeper and he'd been fouled. I know he shot. I know the shot was going to get cleared off the line. It didn't have enough pace to go over the line. I think it was Lovren and he cleared it. But you can't make any contact there. You can't make any contact there. I understand the talking point. I understand the rhetoric of, what's Livakovic meant to do? Is he meant to jump out of the way? I get that, but it's the same thing of, it goes back to that thing of what's a player meant to do when he puts his hands up to defend his face, like a natural reflex is to do, and it hits the guy's hand. Like, what's he meant to do there? It's to me, it's that thing again where it's, I get it, football, it just is not fair. Football is just not fair, and football's not fair. Like, that's as much as I can say. Football's not fair. It's not fair that was a penalty, in my opinion, but I think that was the right decision. Messi steps up. Livakovic has a good penalty saving record, especially this tournament. Messi doesn't have a good penalty scoring record this tournament. Of course, he missed the one against Poland, I think. Maybe it's 2 penalties this tournament. I don't know, but as you can hear my dog barking, I might need to pause it and tell her to shush, but hopefully she gets the hint. Yeah, obviously Messi, great penalty. I think it had a post-shot expected goal of 0.00 of 0.99, which is basically what that means is at the time of the ball going over the line, what percentage chance does the ball have of going in? So if you hit the ball straight down the middle, it has a low expected shot on target. No, expected goal. No, what is it? Expected shot on target. It has a far lower expected shot on target than it were if it was in like the top corner of the goal. Hence why it was a 0.99 post shot expected goal. That's just that post shot expected goal, which is pretty insane. As you can definitely pick up my dog barking, which is quite frustrating. Hopefully she shushes. Hopefully she shuts up at some stage. But of course that was the first goal. It came after a little bit of a period of dominance for Croatia. I wouldn't say dominance, but both sides were kind of just feeling each other out in that opening part of the game. I would say Croatia did have a little bit more of it in maybe the first half an hour, but when you versus an Argentina side that is very dynamic, as it is very structured, you need to be able to be brilliant for longer than just half an hour. And Croatia found that out the hard way. They were not to the races at all. They just weren't there. They just weren't there. Plain and simple, they weren't there. They were struggling to kind of break Argentina down, and defensively they were very fallible. And I think that goes to show again with the second goal. I think it does come from a Croatian corner. The clearance is made, and then Julian Alvarez just runs through the whole defense and scores. It's a slice of luck. It is a slice of luck, in my opinion. I think it's pretty hard to argue against it being a pretty big slice of luck. But you make your own luck in these tournaments. You make your own luck, and Alvarez was the guy who found his way through the defence, found his way past Livakovic and scored a pretty scrappy goal, but a goal's a goal nonetheless. And within the space of 5 minutes, Croatia, despite their dominance, despite their belief that they could do something from this game, find themselves 2-0 down and really on the back foot and really no way back for them, maybe. I think that may be a little bit harsh to say, but they need to change a lot of things pretty quickly. And without Livakovic in goal, it could have been 3 relatively soon after. I think it might have been Rodrigo de Paul who had the header off a corner, which was saved brilliantly down low by Livakovic. So without him, it could have been 3, and that definitely would have been game over. But Croatia went into halftime knowing that they're still within a fight. They're still within a fighting chance. It's only 2-0. You get one back within the first half an hour, and then everything's to play for, right? So 2-0 is not the worst thing in the world. They come out, they make a couple of changes. They come out, make a couple of changes. Of course, they bring on Nikola Vlasic for Pasalic. There you go. He pretty much straight swap, like I said, 2 auxiliary number 10s that like to play out wide, or 2 10s that have been forced to play out wide because of this system. And they brought on Mislav Orsic for Borna Sosa. I think that's how you pronounce it. They brought on Mislav Orsic for him, which basically saw Ivan Perisic move to left back, and saw Orsic move into that slightly more advanced role. This, of course, meant Kovacic playing on the left-hand side of midfield did have a little bit more defensive responsibilities to occupy because of Perisic's inherent attacking nature. Of course, Orsic playing that left-wing role. They did try to counter and did try to really occupy that left-hand side quite a lot because of this change. But yeah, of course, it is one of those things where you do need to risk it. Of course, 5 minutes later, they brought on Petkovic for Brozovic. They basically saw them go to 2 up front. Didn't they? Saw them move Kramaric out to the right hand side. And saw Petkovic move up front. So yeah, you can't. Yeah, so it is pretty much they just kind of rotated positions around. This of course meant Vlasic went into that midfield role. Kovacic and Modric kind of sat slightly deeper to allow for the front 3 to work. Okay, and that is how the second half started. Croatia did have some chances in that second half. They were able to kind of break Argentina down a little bit better, but the constant threat on the counter-attack was Lionel Messi, and the constant threat in any real attacking spaces was Lionel Messi. And this is really the first game which I've watched of Messi that has really given me an appreciation for just how good he is and just how good he can be. Fuck me. Like, I wouldn't say just how good he is because that's a little bit disingenuous because obviously I've seen Messi before play ridiculous games. But this game kind of blew me away. Like, he was so good. He was so good. And the reason why I speak about it is because, of course, his third goal is Messi's goal. It goes down as a Julian Alvarez goal, but I mean, Messi picks the ball up on the right-hand side. I saw this tweet. I can't remember who it was by, but this tweet was Messi can't outpace Josko Gvardiol, right? He can't outplay Josko Gvardiol. Can't outstrength Josko Gvardiol. Can't outstrength him. Can't beat him physically. Can't beat him with athleticism. So what's Messi's solution to that? Is I'm just going to dribble past him 8 times. It's genuinely like baffling how he does it. Like he dribbles past him once, gains 10 meters, then dribbles past him again, gains another 10 meters, dribbles past him again, gains another 5 meters into the box. This is whilst also being on the touchline, being on the byline, being in a position where where he couldn't really take a poor touch and try and recover from it because it would have gone out of play. And the fact that he still is able to find the space to get the ball across goal, to find Julian Alvarez, who tapped home to an empty net, was just ridiculous. Just utterly absurd. You can't put it any other way. It's genuinely just out of this world good. Absolutely out of this world good. And what you see from this is just how big of an impact he can have. And I think there's nothing really to speak about the game anymore. The game kind of petered out. Argentina held on. Nothing really speaking about it there. Argentina go through. Argentina through to the final of the World Cup. Their first time in the final since 2014. Their first time winning. Their first time. Their potential first time. Their first chance to win the trophy since they won it back in 1986. I think that's right. First time since 1986. Is that correct? Please be correct. It is correct. I'm so smart. First time since 1986. Where they could win it. Obviously, they fell in 2014 in heartbreaking circumstances. Hopefully, Messi doesn't repeat that. Now, I want to speak on that man, Messi. Because this tournament was geared around Lionel Messi. It is. Don't even try and deny it, right? This tournament is kind of a crescendo to his career. And it either ends... Because in my opinion, if he wins this World Cup, he retires. In my opinion. Because there is nothing left for him to do. He's not driven by money. He's not driven by trophies. He's driven by the love for the game, but also legacy. And he has nothing to add to his legacy. Similarly, if Ronaldo had won it, he would have retired as well. To me, it is written in some stars that it's Messi's tournament. Because the GOAT debate has been thrown around heavily. And it's, let's be honest, Messi versus Ronaldo is the most mundane football conversation you can have, right? It's so oversaturated, it's just fucked, right? It's so mundane. But this, if Messi wins this World Cup, it's undisputed. Absolutely undisputed. You cannot put it any other way. Focus on my head, please. Don't focus on Zidane in the background. There we go. Oh, no. There we go. Okay. It's undisputed now if he wins it. It is absolutely undisputed if he wins it. You cannot look at the careers that both men have had and say that Messi isn't the GOAT if he wins his tournament. If he wins this tournament, it will be the best football story in a long time. This generation, the best player I've ever seen. A lot of people still say Maradona's better than him. But to me, Messi is just a freak. He's just a freak. He's a freak of nature, that boy. And his ability to make audiences have audiences' jaws drop at 35 years of age, where we've seen him play football for the best part of 2 decades. We know exactly what he's about. We've seen it for so long. We've seen it time after time after time after time, just how good he is. And just how elegant and fluid and graceful he is on the ball. But every time he does something, we just sit back and think, what the fuck? That was my reaction to the third goal. My third goal my reaction was simply, what the fuck? How? How can you do that? What gives you the right to do that? To embarrass one of the best up-and-coming centre-backs in the world. And to do it in just such graceful, elegant, peaceful way. I'll tell you what it was. It was actually more embarrassing for Gvardiol because he didn't get dropped on his ass, or he didn't get nutmegged, or he didn't get rainbow flicked or anything. He just got out footballed. Like, if that's even a word. Messi just took the ball past him 8 times. A man who's half his height, half his weight, who's got half his speed, probably. Messi doesn't have the legs that he once did, so he needs to rely on this, out of this world close control. I just cannot fathom how good he played that game, how good he's played this tournament, and just how much of a impact he's had on so many people. I mean, you see the Argentinian fans. For Argentinian fans, I think a lot of people in the Western culture don't get this, don't understand it. Especially England, they don't get it. In Australia, they definitely don't get it. In other European countries as well, the role football plays in South America is it's unparalleled. You cannot compare it to anything on planet Earth. Football is their life. Football is their life. It is the reason they breathe. It's their oxygen. Like, they care so much about the game. And the stadium is their mosque. It's their church. It's their place of worship. A football stadium. That pitch is their place of worship. And the people they worship to are the 11 men on the pitch. But there's one man that stands above everyone else. And that is Messi. I mean, Maradona is somewhat of a religious figure in Argentina. If Messi can replicate what he's done, by replicate I mean lifting that trophy, he would have to go down as probably one of the most impactful sports athletes. Not saying because I know a lot of people have done a lot more impacting when it comes to like political statements, etc., etc. But we were talking cultural significance to a country. It's hard to go. It would be hard to go past him. Very hard to go past him. Like I said, because Maradona came about in a time where Maradona won 2 World Cups. I'm not mistaken, he won 2 World Cups. I'm not sure if he was there for 76. Would it have been 76? No, it was 78. I'm not sure if he was around for 78. I just want to quickly look, because he was definitely around for 86. 78. Let me find it. No, he was not around for 78. Okay. So he wasn't around for 78. He's won 1 World Cup in 86. And it's like he's a god in that country, Maradona. Maradona's a god in that country. And I'm not, and I don't use that in a flippant phrase. He's a religious figure in that country. Like, he's worshipped. And if Messi replicates what he's done, he's going to be on that level, because they don't muck about with football, man. Like if you I mean, look at the amount of people that are in Qatar to support their country, and they're not only supporting their country, that's all they're doing. All they do is support their country. Like, I was listening to some podcasts and I was reading up on the Argentinian football culture, right? And just a snippet of it is the songs and the chants that they're singing in Qatar is about the country. It's not about a player. It's not about a player, like, I don't know how to describe this, but like, it's not about like England fans talking about Harry Maguire's big head. It's not that. It's Argentina fans singing songs, not chanting, singing songs about how much they love their country, how much they're lucky to be Argentina, how much they love these players and the coach. And that culture you don't lose with that culture. In the long run, you don't lose with that culture. And that is why I want Argentina to win. I want Messi to win, because I want this culture to be celebrated, because it's unlike anything else in the world. Is parts in other parts of South America, of course, it's very similar, if not better. I'm not denying that by any means. But I mean, when you look at Argentina, you look at Boca versus River, arguably the most hated derby / rivalry in world sport. I don't think that's underestimating it to say that. And yet, even they come together in support of the national team. Even they come together in support of the national team. And you see the players. How many times have we heard, especially with England before and other countries, that there is a divide? And I spoke about this a couple of podcasts ago. I referenced it when I was referencing Spain. Do you think Argentina players are kind of separated by what team they play for or what team they support, whether or not they're Boca or River, when they're with the national team? No, they're not. They're Argentinian players. They're not. Messi isn't a PSG player. He's an Argentinian player. Julian Alvarez isn't a Man City player. He's an Argentinian player. As my dog barks. You don't separate, like it's separate. It is a separate game, and it means so much more. The international game, it means so much more because it's their country, and I find it maybe not as deeply as what it is in Argentina, but I find it slowly seeping into this country, seeping into Australia. And maybe with what the APL has done with the A-League, maybe this has completely destroyed it. But I mean, Argentina isn't a America in terms of the country, right? It has very poor parts. A lot of people in that country struggle. I'm not saying all America's rich, by the way. I just want to use that as a comparison where you have a lot of middle class and upper class people in the more first world countries. I'm not calling Argentina a third world country by any means, but a lot of people struggle in Argentina to get by. There's a lot of poverty, a lot of crime to survive and to get by. And football is an escape for a lot of people for that. And that is why they care so much. Because for a month every 4 years, it seems like everything's forgotten. Everything's forgotten, and we're Argentinian. We're going to get behind our boys. It's one of the best cultures in the world. Period. How the love that they have for that sport is unparalleled. And that is why I think they're going to go all the way. I think you look at the fans, you look at the story for Messi, it's written in the stars. Like, it is written in the stars. You can't... To me, it's there. And they're there. They're one game away. Whether it's Morocco or France, who knows? But I think they're going to get the job done. That's my opinion. I've been wrong before. I think that's my opinion. I think they're going to get the job done. But if we... yeah, I think that's it. I think that's done for predicting that or reflecting on that. Let's finish things up with predicting the Morocco-France game. I think I already predicted it when I spoke about the quarterfinals. I think I said 2-0 France or 2-1 France or 1-0 France, something like that. Oh, those three, whatever I said in my last actual World Cup podcast, that's my prediction. Okay, we're done. Thank you all very much for watching another episode of the Two Foot Tackle podcast. Slightly shorter, only one game to speak about, and I rambled about Messi for ages. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate the love and support on the most recent emergency podcast. Hopefully we don't have to do another one of those for a long time. But yeah, thank you very much for the support. Subscribe, do all that good stuff. Link in the bios of all the socials and whatever, you know what I'm speaking about. Apologies, this isn't out at 2 o'clock. This is going to be the latest one, I can tell you for a fact, because it's 1:32 as I finish recording this. So apologies for that. I do apologise for that. It just happens to... it is what it is. I've had to do some things, and I wish I could have put this first, but unfortunately for this one day only, I couldn't. So this will probably be out at around 5 o'clock, if that, if we're lucky. Apologies for that once again. But yes, thank you all very much for watching. See you guys tomorrow, where we speak about France-Morocco, and then we get to see the World Cup final, which is going to be insane. Thank you. See you guys tomorrow. Speak soon. Goodbye.